Good things can happen and bad things can happen to me, but I'm going to focus on the good things are going to happen. And it's that, the laws of the universe, it's true. You really, truly bring towards you more what you think about. So you're thinking about life is great. Things work out for me. The universe has my back. And you start to get free scone moments.
Welcome to Believe in the Good with Haley Dillon, the podcast where we go beyond the track and into the lives of NASCAR wives, families, and the incredible community that keeps this sport moving. Here, we're all about the stories that fuel us, the highs, the lows, the grit, the grace, and the goodness we find along the way. So buckle up, because we're diving into real conversations, behind-the-scenes moments, and the kind of inspiration that reminds us, no matter what, there's always good to be found. So let's hit the gas and let's get into it. Thank you so much for doing this, Brooke. This is going to be so cool. You are like kind of my guinea pig into branching out a little further from just racing wife, even though you are obviously married to someone very involved in racing. But it's sort of like the gateway to, I have a lot of really incredible women that I know, like yourself, that have so many other amazing paths that they've taken in their lives. So I just really am excited that we were able to coordinate this, because you are just like a jack of all trades. I don't even know where to begin the interview, but thank you for coming on, and maybe we can start with just telling me a little bit about you and where you grew up, from when you were a little kid up to catching us up to speed to then becoming Miss Vermont.
Oh my gosh. Woo! Okay. Is it therapy? How deep do we want to get?
We want to get as deep as you'll take us.
Okay, well, get your shovels ready. Let's see. So where do I start? So I grew up in a really small town in Granville, Vermont, in the middle of nowhere. Just myself, my sister, my mom, and my dad. They're a little bit of a new age hippie kind of couple. They would never call themselves that, but they are.
I love that.
Everything was grown in our garden. Our, burger meat came from down the road, and we raised our own chickens and we have our own eggs, and we made our own syrup. We were very much Vermonter types. Still are.
Yeah.
And I went to a one-room schoolhouse. So it was just me and one other person, Stacy. And shout out Stacy. I haven't talked to her in a long time, many, many years. But her and I were the only two in our grade from first through fourth grade. So it was just the two of us. And then 13 kids in total from first grade all the way to fourth. I know.
And they would have you all in kind of one deal?
Literally in one room. When I say one room schoolhouse, one square room, a wood stove, a tiny little, Mrs. Bannister was our cook, our school cook. And she had this tiny little room, and she made everything for us.
And she made you guys lunches, so you didn't have to pack a lunch, and you had
hot lunch every day.
That's a dream. I mean, can you imagine if we could send our kids to a school like that? Did you love it?
Now it sounds kind of bougie. If I were to be we have a very limited edition,
there's
small
one
number,
corner.
Small classroom. Right now we're our classroom's small. We don't want our kids to get lost. No, you didn't get lost in this school at all.
That sounds so amazing. So you went there until fourth grade. Did you go somewhere else after that?
Yes. So then I went to a little school called Warren School, which was the town next town over. Was there until sixth grade. That was a really hard time for me. I think that going from being in a really small school where you know everybody, and then I was the new kid, that's kind of where things got really tough for me. And I felt like
that's a really hard age to have to switch schools.
Yeah, it is a hard age. And you're with other kids that have already kind of established their friend groups. And I found myself I would say that was the beginning of my really, really, really shy period in life, where I was so uncomfortable talking to people. It was so bad at one point. If anyone said anything to me and I would reply back, I would immediately apologize. I was so...
Oh, no. Yeah, you're just afraid to even take up any space kind of thing.
Yes, that's exactly it. Oh my gosh, that's such a great way to put it. I was afraid to take up space.
Which is just hard because you went from this extremely quaint environment. So where do you think that that took you beyond that? That definitely had to have done something in you that made you find your voice a bit maybe, and then you evolved into now, it's interesting that you went from that at that age to then clearly not afraid to take up space in a beautiful way. Like you very much have found your voice, and now you're this woman that speaks on Good Morning America. So I mean, where did it change? What happened after that?
I don't know where it changed. I think I kept a lot of that inside of me for many, many years. This feeling like I didn't really belong, or I wasn't like my self-esteem, my self-worth was really low for a very long time. And I almost think it's like the heartache of that, going through that in elementary school, middle school, high school, even a little bit of college. I think a lot of that is what I had to go through to become so comfortable
Yeah.
doing what I do now. I actually had this epiphany today. Weirdly enough, I was going for a walk and I was like, I wish I could just go back and hug that little girl and tell her that, yeah, that it is all going to be okay. And, all these terrible feelings that we have about not feeling good enough are going to eventually go away. And it took me 30 years probably to get there, but we get there eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I can't imagine if I could go back and tell 12-year-old me anything about where I would be now. I don't know. I mean, would you? You wouldn't. You couldn't,
Yeah.
obviously, but what an interesting thought. Because yeah, you just sometimes need a. Can you imagine on the flip side of that? Can you imagine 65-year-old Brooke comes to you now
Ooh, oh, I love
and
that.
tells you something like, would you want that?
Oh my gosh, yes.
You would.
1,010%. And I kind of like have a bit of a woo-woo in me. Like I've got like traditional faith, but I also have a little bit of woo-woo. And I really do think that all versions of us kind of exist at once. So I wouldn't be surprised
Wow.
if that does happen in a way. And I think you have those pings of moments in life where you're like, oh, everything just clicked, or that
Yeah.
thing that I was hoping for has happened. Maybe it's all sort of happening at once.
That is very interesting. What an
Yeah.
interesting concept. Okay, so I'm gonna have some of my girlfriends like laugh at me because they're gonna be like, Haley, stop talking about this movie. Stop.
Oh, I love
But it
a good movie.
reminds it reminds me, and I've talked about it on the podcast before. I
Yeah.
can't stop talking. I live this movie every day, but it reminds me of About Time. Have you
Yes.
seen that?
About
Yeah.
time. Yes. Wait, who is in it again? It's
Rachel McAdams and is the main girl, and I'm forgetting the guy's name, but basically he can go back in time in his own life,
yeah.
and so he can relive a moment. Like he goes on a date with her finally, and he kisses her, and he's I'm gonna be right back, and then he like disappears, and he rewinds time, and he kisses her again, and she's wow. It's so just like little stuff like that, but basically like the message of the whole thing is that he realizes to live every day as if he went back in time to live that day on purpose. So I literally am like, I'm gagging at my own stop talking about this movie on this podcast, lady, because any listener is probably, here she goes again with the movie. But it really is good. Anyway, and I mean, that's different if 65-year-old Haley came back and talked to me right now. That's a whole different thought. But anyway, such a
Oh, I love that idea. Like what is the day you would go back to right now if you could do that?
yeah. I would love to go back to each one of my babies being born.
Mm.
The day they were born.
Amen. Yes.
Yeah.
Take me. Yes. There is
Yeah.
nothing like that day. It's the
If
most
I
exciting
could,
day, isn't it? You're like,
oh,
it's like Christmas
yeah.
morning. Yeah.
Especially knowing what you know now. If you could go back to those days and like hold your little baby. I mean, I would literally hold and kiss all over Oakley. She's the one my first baby. You're so scared and don't know what you're doing. And so you're like, oh, you just have so many other anxieties going on, fears and everything. And so I was just like, I wish I could do it again. Oh, that would be my first thought.
Yeah, that's the person that you also want to go back and give a hug to. right?
Oh,
They're all like, this is not you. And first of all, it's your hormones.
yeah.
You're literally, your body is doing this to you. You love your child, but there is a lot of stuff going on that you can't control. Yeah, you want to go back in time and just give her hugs. The anxiety. I
Yeah.
was the same way. I wouldn't let Chad hold Kipling for a really long
Yeah.
time. Every time he held him, I'd be like, I don't know if he can breathe. Is his neck at a weird angle? I think I need to be carrying him. And it drives you crazy because
Yeah.
you don't get a chance to enjoy it. You're just constantly worried about them.
The whole experience is just a lot of fear, and you're like, knowing what I know now, I'm like, she's gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. And yeah, if I could just give that girl a hug, I would do that for sure. That's
Yeah.
such an interesting thought. Okay, so you beyond that, so you grow up in a very small town, and then you go off to, you're in 6th grade. Catch me up from what happens then.
The rest of it, just typical bad behavior all through high school, just doing all the things that high schoolers do. And I wouldn't change any of that for the world. I loved
Yeah.
that, especially being in Vermont. There was so much of that, small town vibe. Like, you're outside all the time. You're in the river with your friends. You're at farmers market. It was just a really cool upbringing. And
That
then
sounds like a Hallmark movie.
it
That
was. We
sounds.
got into plenty of trouble. Don't worry.
It
There's
sounds
plenty
so
of yeah.
picturesque though. Like, Vermont is amazing. I
Yeah.
love those northeastern states. Like, you guys know maple bars. Do you like a
Oh,
maple bar?
a maple bar. Hold on. What is a maple bar? I feel like I don't know this. A maple bar?
Oh, okay. I think Vermont is like the OG creator of a maple bar. It's like, when I go to Washington, it's like one of the first things I do. So I'm from Washington State, so every time I'm up there in the Northeast, I'm kind of like, it's chilly and the
Yes.
sun's up later, and it just feels like when I'm in Washington, it feels very similar. But maple bars, it's a donut with maple frosting,
Oh, yes.
like
Yeah.
it's like a log.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Though those are so good. Anything maple flavored is a win. But also, yeah, I forgot you're from Washington State. We're like we're like United
Yeah.
States sisters, like just on the other ends of the country.
Yes, we touched that line. What is the latitude or latitude? I don't know.
We were holding hands across the country. I lived in Portland, Oregon for a brief period of time, which is still a little south of there, but
Yeah.
that area is just gorgeous. It's kind of that same vibe. Like,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
like a little chilly in the summer, but like
Mhm.
beautiful and green and lush. Like,
Yeah. We get snow in the mountains, and it's just, I love it. So when did you decide had you grown up doing any pageants, and when did you decide to do that pageant? Like, how many have you done?
yeah, only that one.
And you won it. That a girl.
At the time I was dating this guy, he was a professional snowboarder, and I was always going to his events, and I loved it. It was so fun. But I think when you become a girlfriend of somebody who's the performer, and not unlike being a NASCAR wife, like, your husband is
Yeah.
out there, he's the guy, like, everyone knows him, they want to talk to him. All these sponsor events are, he's the big deal. And I was like, you know what? I want to do something too. So
Yeah.
I looked at him one day and I was like, I'm going to run for Miss Vermont. And he was like, okay, babe, you do it. Sure, I'll support you.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was doing. I had never really been a girl to put on makeup before that or do my hair. But I remember I just devoted myself to getting as fit as I could. And I didn't really have a whole lot, like, of money. So we weren't like buying these beautiful pageant dresses. I remember I was working at a clothing store at the time on Church Street, because this is in college. So this is my college job. And I was like, hi, I know I work here, but I can't afford the dresses that we're selling here. Will you be my sponsor? And they were so nice. And they said,
Oh.
of course. And they were my sponsor. And I wore a dress from the store I was working at. They also let me use their jewelry. And I think,
Oh, awesome.
yeah. And but I think it's honestly a testament to, if you, like, do something totally crazy and out of your comfort zone, there's no telling. You can be as successful as someone who's been doing this for years. So
Yeah.
take a leap. And and that really did honestly set the path, set that, like, butterfly moment for so many things that have led me to today. Probably was the beginning of me starting to feel a little bit more confident, because I was like, oh, I can do this. And I remember I would tease my I would train myself before I got on stage because I was such a nervous person. I was so self-conscious where I would stand in the wings and I would picture in my stomach like this ball of light. And before I walked on stage, I would just picture that ball of light getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it filled
Wow.
the room. And I think that when you do that kind of exercise, it really makes you instantly more self-confident. Like you
Oh
trick
my God.
yourself feeling like
I
you are a
love
ray of
that.
light in a room. Yes, and you're an actress. And I feel
Yeah.
sometimes when you're going to go do a scene and you're scared and you're nervous, you just picture that ball of light and you kind of forget who you thought you were because
Yeah.
this light has taken over all that dark fear.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I am going to use that. I love that.
Yeah,
You
it
have
works.
so many, for any listeners, I like don't have, I do have TikTok. I don't really gravitate. I kind of forget about it. I check it once a week. I'm not like a TikToker,
Mhm.
really, but I have seen on your Instagram where then you'll do something to TikTok or of your TikTok to Instagram. And so then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go over to TikTok. I remember it exists. And then I go and binge watch all your things. And you have so many great things on there that are like what you just said. So
Oh,
many beautiful. One time you told a story about Free Scone Girl
oh
or
my
something.
gosh.
Yeah.
Free Scone Girl. Do you want to hear about Free Scone Girl?
Yeah, can you tell the listener and tell me again because I really love it. And you had mentioned it one time and this was like over a year ago. I was with my brothers at a race. They're gonna laugh at me. I was like, "Oh my gosh, Nick, my brother." I'm like, "You're Free Scone Girl." And he
Yes.
was like, "What?" And I was like, "Okay." He had gotten something, he had gotten up to the next one in line and it was literally that situation and he is such a like good's gonna happen for me in my life. You know, both my brothers are very like infectious people and it was cute because he like got the next free thing of chicken nuggets that was ready and they were like, do you want it? Just take it. And he was like, all
Yes.
right, I'll take it. So anyway, explain this concept because you are such a light and this is kind of like the idea of it and this is like your personality bottled up into a story. I feel like you are such this girl. So anyway,
Well, first of all, boys can be free scone girls too. I think
yes.
boys are the most powerful of free scone girls.
Yeah.
So props to him. I love it. So I can't take credit for the term because this came from Chad. This is his observation in life.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and so he started calling me free scone girl years ago, and we were watching this series called Broad City. Have you ever seen this on? I don't recall what channel it was on, but Broad City, so funny. Please watch it. Great comedy.
Okay.
But in one of the scenes, Abby Jacobson, who's the actress, she is going up to the counter. I think it was Abby. Yeah. Or it was Alana. I think it was Abby. She's going up to the counter in a coffee shop. So she's standing behind the person in front of her. And she hears their conversation, her and the barista. And she mentions to the barista, oh my gosh, that scone looks so delicious. Wow, are those new? And she's talking about how great this scone is. And the barista goes, yeah, they're brand new. You're here. Do you want to just try one? Like, I'll bag it up for you and hands her a free scone. And so Abby, the main character in this show, she's, oh man, I'm gonna get a free scone too. I want to get myself a free scone. So she goes
Yeah.
to the counter and she's talking the same thing. Wow, those scones look so delicious. And the guy goes, yeah, would you like one? They're $4.50. So
Yeah.
he didn't get the free scone is the whole joke. But like we were joking about how sometimes in life you get these free scone moments where you're like, huh, how lucky am I to have this thing handed to me? And
Yeah.
Chad has always joked because there have just been a lot of weird things that in my life, and he's witnessed them where he's like, how does that work out for you? Like, how does
Yeah.
that work out for you in the end? You don't
Yeah.
stress, you don't worry. Things just happen. Good things happen. And I was like, I think it's just your mentality. And he was like, yeah, it's a free scone girl mentality. So it's
Yeah.
just going through life and kind of, I think being honestly just thinking selfishly like good things are going to happen to me, which I think is the first bit. Good things are going to happen to me. Why wouldn't they? Good things can happen and bad things can happen to me, but I'm going to focus on the good things are going to happen. And
Yeah.
it's that, the laws of the universe, it's true. You really truly bring towards you more what you think about. So you're thinking about life is great. things work out for me. The universe has my back, and you start to get
Yeah.
free scone moments. And yeah, I just think
It's
it's so true.
so
I think
it's
you're a free
so
scone girl too.
well,
100.
I feel thank you. I do feel that way. I totally feel that way. I feel like good things are going to happen to me. Why not me? I mean, I don't think I've always been that way, but I do feel that way now in my life. I just feel like, yeah. And there has been moments where I'm like, and we've had that too, Ty and I, where it's just well, and there's certain little things that I've witnessed in my life in that way. Like my mom, we always she always gets front row parking.
Mm.
I'm not kidding. We will be at the Super Bowl and she'll get front row parking. Like the craziest, July 3rd, everybody preparing for Costco, at Costco preparing for the 4th, and she'll get front row parking. And because she's just put it out there that she's going to get front row parking. She always does. And we laugh about it, but she just always does. And like you say about sort of the law of attraction, and
That's
I think that there's like this battle almost between some faith community of like the law of attraction and it being like, no, that's just God. And it's, well, yeah, it is.
all
You
the
can
same
call
thing.
it faith. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. I believe that God has a beautiful plan for my life. And so it's funny, I was talking about Nick, my brother, being a free scone girl, but he is, yeah, he so is, and he manifested
Hmm.
his wife. And
Mm.
I mean, he was single, and I mean, they will love that I tell this story, but he was single. He was like, chasing his NASCAR dream and lived here for 10 months. And thank God for that because that was kind of what connected Ty and I. But he lived here for a short snippet of time. It's so funny when you can have all these testaments to like how your relationship got started. So grateful for that moment. But he came home because he was just like, I want to get married. I want to be a home builder. I want to have kids. I want to have a normal life. I want to go up to the cabin on the weekend and I want to have a cabin. Like he literally manifested these things in his life. And so he started building houses. He was doing all these things and he's like, why is my wife not coming into my life yet? And my mom had talked to him about the law of attraction and she was like, you need to prepare like she's already there. And so he cleaned out half of his closet and he slept on one side of the bed and he would make 2 cups of coffee worth of coffee pot in the morning. Like he would do these weird things. And then literally a girl he liked since 7th grade became single and he was like, Carly, I want to take you out. And she was just fresh off of a breakup, was like, oh, I got a lot of baggage. You don't want to part of this. And he was like, I got a lot of hands. I don't care about your baggage. And he just chased her down and they are married now, been married for 11 years and have 3 kids. And, he's got that free scone girl mentality. And I think that we can get in like a rut, right? Where we can stop feeling that way. And it's like something for me is to just not let my brain get infested with ants, which, if you do therapy, automatic negative thoughts. So don't let your brain get infested with automatic negative thoughts, ants. And so
Oh.
when you're having that battle of not wanting or not being able to think positively, have a mantra in your mind. And for me, that mantra that God like just hit me over the head with one day was believe in the good. And
Mm.
so I was like, okay, believe in the good. And I kept saying that over and over and over. And anyway, kind of why the name of my podcast is Believe in the Good is that, I of course it's hard to always believe in the good. But, when you're infested with ants, you gotta say, no, not today, Satan. I'm going to believe in the good. And so I think that it doesn't just happen to you to be the free scone girl, right? You do kind of have to put that energy out there.
I think believe in the good and free scone girl are like identical,
Yeah.
like concepts and like lifestyles. Really, at the end of the day, it's like your
Yeah.
lifestyle. Okay, I'm gonna, for the most part, just think something great's gonna happen today. Like your mom, I'm
Yeah.
gonna find that front row parking, or I'm gonna I don't have tickets to that event and it's tomorrow night, but guess what? They're going to land on my lap somehow. And they do. But it's not because you're not doing anything. It's because you're actively seeking it. And I feel like it's, what do they say, where your attention flows or something goes, attention flows. So it's whatever you're looking at is what you're going to get. So when you're looking at those good thoughts, you said, you're going to get more of them. But we're not perfect. I mean, I go through my own stuff. I was so depressed after I had my first child and the second, like we said earlier. And so you go through like dark periods. It's not a forever sunshine kind of situation. But if you've got that, if someone can even just trigger it for you, you read something or you watch a podcast like this, maybe someone was watching is feeling this way right now. Just try and think about 5 good things that have happened to you today and ask God, the universe, for 5 more things to happen tomorrow. And you'll you're training yourself to get back in that mindset again.
Love that.
Yeah.
Hey parents, are you looking for high quality, faith-inspired pajamas for your little ones? Let me introduce you to Holy Pals, the brand that brings comfort, quality, and faith together in the sweetest way. Holy Pals creates soft, cozy pajamas featuring beautifully designed Bible stories and characters, making bedtime not just about rest, but also about faith and family. Whether it's Noah's Ark, David and Goliath, or the Nativity, these pajamas are a perfect way to spark meaningful conversation with your kids. And not only are they adorable, but Holy Pals is committed to quality. Each pair is made with 100% premium cotton, ensuring a safe and snug fit for your little ones. So why not make bedtime a little more special? Visit holypals.com/HaleyDillon for 20% off at checkout. Holy Pals, where faith and comfort come together, one bedtime story at a time.
Yeah, I think that's such a practical thing. Like to what you just said, when you're in a rut of negativity, think of 5 things you're thankful for. And I mean, they don't have to be, everybody goes, not everyone has as blessed of a life, as fortunate of a situation as you and I. I mean, we get it. We own it. We're very blessed women.
Yes.
But, if you've got the air in your lungs, if you've got, there are things that are very small that sometimes for myself, I have to count down to, well, I'm alive today. Thank you for that, and I love that. Just a very practical tidbit of saying 5 things that you're grateful for.
Yeah.
That's a good start.
Yeah. No, I think that we've nailed it with that one. Nailed it.
Great. and also too, something that I think about is that you'll be amazed what God can do with one act of obedience. I think about that a lot with working out. Like when I don't know, I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing it. I'm here for however long and I'm not eating, whatever.
Yeah.
But, what God can do with one act of obedience, just meaning like having that showing the Lord that you're trying to have a positive attitude or you're trying to manifest, and you'll be amazed what he can do with something so small. So
did you ever feel that with parenting? Because I feel like that is very much a thing I think about in parenting. Like the obedience in parenting is I don't want to, I don't have the energy for it. But instead of being frustrated when my child is behaving like this, I'm going to choose a different approach. And that is that obedience. Like I'm going to do the thing that is just kinder and nicer, even though all I want to do is snap. And believe me, I still snap. We're all human. But when you do choose that path, it just how everything shifts. Like everything gets better.
Yeah.
With kids, at least for me.
So true.
It's you have to make every time.
Yeah. And like you say, it's hard to not have that automatic snap because like you say, we all do it. But like when you choose to, okay, I'm just going to take 15 minutes and actually kick the ball with them outside.
Yes,
exactly. Unbelievable what it can create for the rest of your day. I mean, 15 minutes can change the whole tone.
Yeah. That's exactly
so you did Miss Vermont.
Yes.
One time. You decide I'm going to do it and you win. What is Miss Vermont? Is it swimsuit? Do you have talent?
It's swimsuit. There's no talent. That is the Miss America pageant. I didn't have any talent. I was like, what would I do? I don't know. I used to do theater. I would do maybe I would have sang a song. I don't know. But yeah, just swimsuit and evening gown and interview on stage and then off stage. And it was so fun. I remember winning and I was like, are you sure? Wait, the girl that I was running against had been doing it for a long time. She was stunning, gorgeous, perfect on stage. She ended up winning, I think, the year after. But I was just like, there's no way I'm going to win this. Like standing there, like I had gotten that far believing that I could win it, but then standing there holding her hand, I was like, okay, let's be real now. Like she is an absolute 10 out of 10. And to this day, I'm so glad that she won the next year because she really was another incredible Miss Vermont that year.
Oh,
But yeah, and then I went to Miss USA, the national stage, and I think I lost a little bit of that. I think once I was like faced with, oh, all these girls are professional pageant girls, they know what they're doing. I'm like learning how to put on eyeliner for the first time, and
yeah.
like press on nails, and they kept falling off. I didn't know what I was doing, but it was a really great experience, and it was I think it just everything that pushes you out of your comfort zone is a really important thing to do in life. It's how
Yeah.
you grow. And even
Yeah.
though it wasn't super comfortable for me at the time, I grew afterwards because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from there, did you start modeling, or how did you get into modeling, and did you ever do any acting? You were with, and how did you go from there to then being living in North Carolina?
That is kind of like a bunch of tiny little side quests in
Yeah.
life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After that, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I graduated college. I had been working with a PR agency that did action sports marketing. And I was hired right after graduation to work with them as like a low level employee. And I worked my way up pretty quickly. I think I was fairly good at it. I didn't love it. And when I had a chance to go move across the country to Portland, Oregon with some friends of mine, I was like, okay, sign me up. I don't need this
Yeah.
professional life. Like, I want to go be a college kid again, but I'd already graduated college. And I
Yeah.
moved out with there with some friends. And let me tell you, we were so broke. And we had the best time. And we lived in a house and we couldn't afford to turn the heat on in the winter because we were all just like post college grads.
Yeah.
And I worked in a coffee shop. They worked at anthropology. And we had just
Fun.
enough like money to rub together to buy a bus ticket to go to the next like music show down the road. And we just had the best time. But then I think it hit me like about a year in. I need to be doing something adultish. This is really fun. It feels like I'm prolonging
Yeah.
my adolescence. And that's when I moved back to Vermont. And I started with that same agency again. They were so amazing. They hired me to work with them again. And I love that agency. I owe them a lot. And because of them, we were working with Mountain Dew, the soda company,
Yeah.
PepsiCo. And
Yeah.
we did all of their action sports activations like snowboarding, skateboarding, BMX, surfing, all that fun stuff, UFC fighting. And PepsiCo owns, all of these little brands underneath it. And they were like, hey, we think that you might be a great PR agency actually, it was a whole marketing agency. I was in the PR department. You guys will be great to handle our NASCAR activation with Jeff Gordon. Okay, cool. I don't know
Yeah.
anything about NASCAR. And we do the activation. It goes great. Apex bottle, if anyone has one, that was like the day. And because they wanted us to continue to work with NASCAR, they were like, come to a race. We want you to experience a race firsthand. If you're going to do NASCAR activation with us, you got to know what NASCAR is all about. And I get down there to Loudon, New Hampshire. It's my first time at a racetrack. Now, you've been racing for a long time, so I feel like you
Loudon,
kind of
that
know.
is like one of my favorite tracks too.
Is it?
Yes, I love New Hampshire. Anyway, so
It's that New England vibe that we love.
yep, yep.
And I get down there, and I just remember standing in the pits because I got us hot passes. And I think we were Dale Jr.'s pit box. And, like the car comes in so fast and screeches to a halt. And it's like, like they're like doing the tires and some bolts fly off and someone hands me a bolt and it was still warm. And like the smell of the garage, the feel of it, the vibrations. I was like, what is this? This is something like I've never experienced before. And I instantly fell in love with it. And earlier that day, I had seen a girl up on stage and she was in a yellow and black fire suit and she was in front of thousands of people and she was interviewing a driver. And I was like, I could do
What
that.
is that
Like,
job?
oh,
Yeah.
job. That it looks like way more fun than being behind the scenes, doing because PR work is behind the scenes and it's hard.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I want that. And I went home that night and I filled out an application for Miss Sprint Cup, shot it off into the world, and didn't think anything would ever come of it. And a couple weeks later, I got the first email to come to Charlotte and audition. So it
Oh
like
my
really is a
God.
butterfly effect. Like, how did all of that
Yes.
happen? You know?
I never would have suspected that that's how you became a Sprint Cup girl, that you just literally saw it, thought it seemed cool, and applied.
Yeah.
That's a free scone for you. That's so cool.
So it just like sometimes also when you know you're on the right path is when things
Yeah.
just do open up for you.
Yes.
The
So
right like
true.
water is flowing, and it was just like, oh, this is happening. And so yeah, I think it was like a bit of fate in a way
Yeah.
for young girl mentality for sure. I should not have been hired. By all circumstances, I should not have been hired. Like, even my boss, after he hired me, he was like, Brooke, I don't know how you got hired, but you got hired. Loved you. He's like, I saw your resume. It was the bottom of the pile. It was missing like 50% of what was required. It was just not it. And he was like, but I watched your video and I read your resume and I thought there was potential there.
Yeah.
So
There was a sparkle.
Yeah.
So you did a video audition type of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And then they called you in, and did you like move to North Carolina? And like how did it transpire?
So the process is really interesting, actually. And I don't think that they have anyone who does like Cup Girl stuff anymore, right?
No. I think that whole situation might have just sort of dissolved. I don't know. Marilyn Green was there forever, and I know Anne Marie. I don't know if you remember Anne Marie, that was a Sprint Cup girl. Yeah. And then she kind of started to take over, maybe coordination of the Sprint Cup girl. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was one, right?
She was amazing. She was a
Yeah.
huge help she really took me under her wing when I first got to North Carolina. But yeah, I don't think they do it anymore. But it used to be a really, really intense process. Like they took it very seriously who they hired.
It was very different than now. And I mean, that was a different type of role than say the Monster Girls now, or sort of like a trophy girl. It was different. Like you guys were interviewing people, you were doing much different. It was a different role at the time, right?
Role. Yeah, you had to have a college degree. They wanted it to be in communications because you were kind of like an on-track host. So you were doing activation at the track all day long. Like we had a huge screen, like not as big as like the Charlotte Motor Speedway screen, but a really, really big screen. And we would do live games with folks, and it would project on there. It was like hosting like a 12-hour show.
Yeah.
And then we would do driver interviews on stage.
You had to have been exhausted.
It was a lot. It was probably one of the hardest jobs I've ever had, because I had to quickly pick up I would say drivers' names wrong. I remember one time I introduced Bobby Labonte as Bobby Labonte. Yeah, is that what it is? Yeah. And for the whole room.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm from Vermont. It sounded kind of French, and I feel like you wouldn't say it. I don't know. So I didn't say it. But so I had and a learning curve that was steep. But it was a really cool job. It's where I met Chad. It's where a lot of my life, and now my life is still racing in a way.
Yeah.
But it was cool. It was so fun. And I think there was a difference between Miss Sprint Cup and the Monster Girls. And I think that they both had a really important role in what NASCAR was trying to say at the time. Mm-hmm. Like we were there, they really wanted the girls to be removed from being like trophy girls. They were trying to change that. They wanted us to be that like more of the host.
Yeah.
And then the Monster Girls, they brought back that really classic vibe of we want someone in Victory Lane who's beautiful.
Trophy girl, yeah.
You know, the kiss on the cheek. And I love both of those. I think they're both really cool approaches to.
Yeah, I think that they're just kind of two totally different roles, although they happen to be both done by very beautiful women, because obviously all the Sprint Cup girls were gorgeous too. So you were doing that. How many years did you do it?
Do you want the real tea?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of tea involved with why I was.
There has to be, because I know that you and Chad had to have started maybe dating, or what's the tea?
Yeah, there is piping hot tea. So I was only in NASCAR for a year as Miss Sprint Cup. Well, technically like a year and a few months. because I started dating Chad, and it was very gossipy at the time. I remember being like, oh my gosh, like, what did I just do to myself? I destroyed my chances with a career because I'm dating this guy in the sport. So basically, to go back, so I first met Chad when a driver wins, back when I was in the Sprint Cup, we would take the whole team at the shop breakfast the next morning. And it was like the coolest thing because you're celebrating the guys who didn't get to go to the track and they worked just as hard to get those cars ready, right? So it was a great idea. And so at this particular time, Hendrick had just won. Jimmy had just won.
I was going to say, you probably saw a lot of Chad because Jimmy won every weekend.
That was a good year. I think they won the championship that year. I'm trying to remember. So I'm bringing in these bagels and I'm struggling with the door. And this guy gets up from this office right by the door. He jumps up and he opens the door for me. And he's just so chivalrous and so nice. And I remember being so taken by that. What a gentleman, that I Googled him the second I left. I'm like in the car driving away, and I'm not driving. Don't worry, not texting and driving. And I'm like, who is Chad Knaus? Is Chad Knaus married?
Yeah.
And it comes up that he was engaged, and I was like, well, dang, okay. Well, he's just a nice guy.
Yeah.
So the crazy thing is, a couple days later, maybe a week later, I get a text from an unknown number, and it was a text saying, hey, it's Chad. I'd love to have you over for dinner. And I was like, okay, Shady McShady, you're engaged.
Yeah, you're engaged. Yeah.
But what are you trying to do? And I kind of was just like a little bit cold, but thank you. Maybe sometimes my schedule's really busy, probably not. And then finally, after him being so persistent, I was like, I know you're engaged. I just don't really think this is appropriate.
Yeah.
And then that's when he was like, well, technically the world thinks I'm engaged, but we broke up months ago and my fiance and I are no longer together. And I was like, okay. Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Let's get going.
Oh my gosh.
After that, we started dating in secret because technically, according to my contract as Miss Sprint Cup, you can't date a driver or anyone who's influential in the sport. And Chad was, influential enough where they considered that, I assume we would consider that breaking the contract. So we dated for a year. We didn't leave his house ever. Every single date at his house, we had a chef come over and cook us dinner, or we would
oh my gosh, how cute.
It was like dating, like hyperspeed dating. Like we packed 5 years worth of dating into a year because we just were only together.
Yeah.
It was great. And
it's so fun to be kind of feeling like you're like getting away with stuff, and that kind of gives it some flavor too, something fun to it.
100%. And no one was getting hurt. It was just, I was risking it because I would have gotten fired. But we both were just enjoying each other's company so much. We loved it. But then NASCAR did find out, or Sprint did find out. And the beginning of the second year, they pulled me into their trailer at Daytona. And they were like, we have heard the rumors. We don't approve. You can't date Chad Knaus and be Miss Sprint Cup. You're going to send you home today. You have to go. We're sending you on a plane from Daytona back to Charlotte. I was like a puppy with her tail between her legs.
Yeah.
And I went home and I just was like so upset, confused. They're making me choose between this guy I've been dating for a year and this job that was potentially, the girl like Kim Kuhn, Monica Palumbo, like people who did that job are now, that's their career is
right.
broadcast or anything like that in racing. And that's kind of what I wanted. So I remember Chad came home and we had this long discussion in the parking lot of Fat Burrito. If you know that restaurant in Charlotte, RIP, no longer exists. And he said this to me, and it like, to me in my heart, he was like, Brooke, I understand you have to make a choice. I love you today, but I don't know if I'm going to love you tomorrow. It was so Chad Knaus coded. Like that is something that he was so like black and white.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, like I'll have to do some, wow.
Yeah.
And so he was like, it's up to you, basically. You can choose, but you can't hold it against me if we break up and you also don't have a job.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So obviously you guys are married now, but so what transpired?
Years later, it all worked out.
Yeah. So were you, obviously, I mean, that's kind of rattling. At what point did you go, all right, we're together, and he was like, all right, and you are my girlfriend now, and we are like proudly dating world. What was the transition like? Was it quick or?
I think we broke up a couple times. We tried to break up, and then a week later, we'd be like hanging out again. And we did that for a long time. And then at some point, we just were like, okay, I think we're dating. I think we're just official. Like, we're exclusive. And honestly, a year after that, we were engaged. But it was just, I think it's because we had that year together that was so intense. Like, we knew
Yeah.
that we were really good partners together. And I knew that he was going to be an amazing dad and he'd be an amazing husband.
Hmm.
I don't know why he married me. I could not be more opposite. I feel like I must drive him crazy most of the time. He's so tight and I'm so messy.
That's why you're perfect for each other. Ty is so, black and white. We always joke about Ty being, he doesn't have a doodle. That really bothers me. Are you able to sit down and draw like a doodle of some kind? Yeah, he can't. And my brain is, have you seen it in Kanto, the house that is like constantly has flowers growing and changing? I'm like, that's my brain. It
I
is,
love that visual.
yeah, it is hard to keep up with. I'm constantly like, and then he's just very, the square goes in the square hole, the circle goes in the, like primary colors.
But don't
Just,
you feel like you kind of like that kind of relationship is the best kind because
yes,
sort of
that's
balance
how,
each other's crazy out in a way.
yes. I mean, it sounds like you are kind of that way in your guys' world of just sort of the free spirit in a way.
Mm-hmm. It sounds
Yeah.
like you are too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Only one way to be. I have tried to be the other way. I've tried so hard to be type A, and it is just
Yeah.
not sure. I am not.
Me either. I'm
Mm.
just not. I would love to be. I feel like in my mind, I'm like, that seems so much cleaner.
Yes. I should show you my car right now. It's
Yeah,
not a great look.
yeah. I
It does.
currently have two gigantic pool floaties in my car that I didn't want to take out.
Floaty?
They're not small. It's a whale and a flamingo. They're like full-size pool floaties that barely are fitting in my car. They're a gift. They're a gift for my niece and nephew. It's their birthday party today, and I bought these pool floaties, and I'm like, you're just gonna live in here until I take you to the party. I'm not
Everyone just
taking
thinks
you
you're like
out.
perpetually on your way to the beach. They're like, wow, she's just always somewhere. To the ocean, the pool.
They're huge, and I can't even put the back seat up, so I don't know how we're gonna get to the party. But anyway,
Where the kid's gonna go?
yeah, Oakley's we're gonna have to shimmy them to the side. But yeah, that's probably not very type A of me. They're
No.
just living in my car. Yeah, people are probably like, oh, I wonder where she's headed. And I'm like, I'm not going any, I'm going to a
No,
birthday party.
just keep them guessing. That's
Yeah.
okay. Keep them guessing. I
Oh
want
my
to know your
God.
next move.
So then, okay, so you guys start dating. What was the birthplace for Tucky and then Stitchy? I mean, tell me where you came up with the idea of Tucky and like a little bit about being on Shark Tank and just where was the idea born for that? And it's, by the way, every business that you have started, I'm like, I've got the Tucky. I use the Stitchy all the time. I love the Stitchy is so nice. I mean, for your collar flaps on like ties stuff, they are stitched down
Yeah.
permanently. I'm like, this is
Permanently.
great. And then anytime Oakley has a school shirt, they're always so big, and so I stitch them up, and it works so nice.
I love hearing all the new ways that people have found to use a stitchy. I think it's very cool because even when I started, I didn't have that big of a vision. It was just like, oh, it's a cute little thing to help like my dress, the
Yeah.
buttons not gapping. And then I'm really so excited every time I hear someone share a new way they are using it. And I'm like, oh, this
Yeah.
is cool. That's actually really helping people
Yes.
make their clothes fit better, or, if we're all just trying to be more mindful of shopping and making the most of what we have in our closet.
Yeah, it definitely reinvents things that you already
Yeah.
have. And so does the Tucky. I mean,
Yeah.
that makes anything a crop top. It's so fun.
And layering. But I started Tucky, we were talking about kind of being parents and how it does change you in the beginning and how you wish you could go back in time and be kinder to yourself. I started Tucky when I was postpartum with Vivian, my daughter, and I think I was definitely in that stage of a little crazy, like a little wild. I don't know what my brain was doing. The hormones were not settled yet.
Yeah.
And even though you're maxed out by your second child, you are just like, how am I even functioning? You're sleep deprived. Your youngest needs you all the time. Your newborn is doing classic newborn stuff, crying, and you're like, why? What are we crying? Gotta solve this problem. It's just so much that you think, of course, this is a great time to start something new.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there is this crazy lady inside of us that goes, I'm not just a mom. Like I'm so much big. I have ideas. I have things that, I mean, I'm not hate. That's not even like to say just a mom. That's such a silly thing. No one is just a mom.
No
But I
one's just
think
a
that
mom.
there's like this moment postpartum where you kind of go, you have, it could be the birthplace of a very beautiful business. Like you have, like you
I would
created.
wonder how many like female-owned businesses have started like postpartum.
In that
There's
1
a
year
number.
postpartum.
Yeah.
Yeah, within that first 8 months or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Because
you
you're
have
crazy.
just like a different mindset at that point in your
Yeah.
life. But anyway, so
And you're on your
you,
phone a lot. I think you're sitting
yeah,
down, you're nursing a lot or bottle, whatever your choice is, and
yeah,
you're sitting a lot. So you're kind of like, I know you're not supposed to be on your phone with a newborn, so please don't come for me. But it's boring at times when you're like
yeah,
2 a.m. and you're like, oh my God, how do I stay awake and not fall asleep? You're scrolling.
yeah,
So I was just scrolling and I had this idea because I was using my bras to tuck my tops up and under to kind of give myself what looked like my old body back because I was postpartum and your body is so different at that point. And I was like, there's no tool that does this. So I was just like scooting around online and I found a supplier that made elastic bands
yeah.
and was several. And eventually, after talking to a bunch of them, this one was so willing to work with me that they even helped source the hardware. They would have the hardware power coded for me.
So
And
cool.
and I brought a couple and I gave them to friends. They were like, oh, this is cool. And then I sold a couple and I was like, okay. And then I bought a couple more to sell and had
Yeah,
my friend Amanda Anderson take some pictures for the website. And next thing you knew, it was like Shark Tank called. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
yeah,
Freestyle Girl. I don't know what it was. But like
yeah.
Shark Tank called.
So Shark Tank reached out to you.
I
That's
should say,
crazy.
I think that was misleading when I said Shark Tank called. Sorry, that was
No,
misleading. So Shark Tank. So people were telling me all along. They were like, "This is a Shark
you
Tank
should go on
product. You
Shark
gotta
Tank.
apply
Yeah,
on Shark Tank." So I was like, "Shoot, why not?"
yeah,
So I applied and didn't hear anything back. But doing what you do when you're trying to have fun with something and chase it down, I found a producer, I think it was, on Instagram, and I
yeah,
just messaged her, just DM'd her. And Erica, still she was the one who started everything in motion.
yeah.
And she was like, "Hey, this is a really cool product." And then she goes, "Oh, by the way, I actually had your entry, your applicant entry, whatever it's
Oh my
called,
gosh. Yeah,
on my list of people to call. So this is great timing." So she kind of got me going. And then there's a process where you're like, there's rounds of elimination in the audition process. And then somehow we make
really.
it through. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They're vetting
So
out.
how many, yeah, how many rounds was it that they kind of had to vet you until you actually were going to go on the show? How much did they have you do before you?
I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah, they just
You
kind of want
know?
to see if you're
Yeah.
legit. Do they need information on your company? Yeah,
Yeah.
need to
They want
see
all your
numbers.
financials. There's a huge packet to fill out. There's it's just there. I think they're vetting out anyone who's on the show for the wrong reasons
Yeah,
or
you really
doesn't
have to
have a
be to know your stuff
yeah,
so that they
exactly.
don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
interesting because, I mean, which makes sense, but that's interesting when people do go on Shark Tank and they all say no. Like they all aren't interested,
yeah,
because it's been such a process to even get there.
I know it is interesting. I'm guessing like maybe it's like for me when I went on, I had a base that I wouldn't go below. I was like, okay, if they're gonna offer me below this number, I'm not gonna say yes because it just doesn't make sense. My base was very I mean, it was not aggressive. It was like whatever you want, basically. I didn't
Yeah.
really,
I wrote the numbers
wasn't
down.
for too much.
Yeah, I wrote the numbers down. So
Oh gosh,
you had made 60 grand in 6 months, and just from like your sales, just
yeah,
with friends
just
and
website,
online,
yeah,
maybe TikTok. Was that
TikTok.
TikTok?
It was
Did
TikTok.
TikTok Shop do a huge?
There
That was
was a
huge for you.
TikTok shop. There was a
Oh,
shop. It was pre-TikTok shop, and I remember reading about TikTok shop being huge in Asia, and I was like, man, like as soon as that's available in the US, I'm gonna get
yeah.
on there. going to be big. And it
Yeah.
has become big for us since then. But at the time, what didn't exist, it was just like sales. People would see it online and they would go to your website and they would buy it.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so that was how you were generating. I'm sure now with TikTok Shop, you're crushing it even more. And then, so then you wanted 70,000 for 30%. They asked for 40% and you countered at 39.
Yep.
Is that right?
It was the negotiation of the decade. It was really.
I think it's awesome. I would have done.
Mark Cuban was like, "Whoa, Brooke, whoa there, girl, calm down. What an aggressive negotiator you are." But that was like it. Like I said, I just wanted to have a shark. I wanted to have a partner. I didn't know what I was doing. I was still that stay-at-home mom, holding my newborn at night. I just needed someone to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
So I took the deal on air. And then after, I did not take it. So there was like a due diligence stage after.
Okay.
And I decided after going through a lot of back and forth that it just wasn't for me. I actually had a bit of a moment where I felt like I had to choose between being a mom, a full-time present mom, and being like a business owner that could possibly skyrocket with Damon's help. And I looked at my kids and I was like, I don't think I'm ready for that. So yeah, I did take the deal then. And I think it was at the time a really like shocking decision for some, but it ended up being the best decision I could have ever made because things have gone amazingly since then.
Did the exposure alone help your business? I mean, how has that, did you notice a big difference before and after just being on the show?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Being a Shark Tank brand, I think, gives you such a stamp of approval and trust. People automatically know you've been vetted, especially if you've got an offer. They trust you, and that's amazing. So I've always made sure that like my customers are our top priority. Like we have an incredible return policy. If anything breaks, you just email us. We send you a new one, no questions asked, stuff like that. So we just really value our customers. But no, it really does. It changes things, and you get a little nice bump every time it re-airs, which doesn't hurt.
I bet and that's interesting. I wonder how many people do that, where they do agree to a deal on air, and then they end up going through the due diligence and deciding against it, which is completely fair and valid, because it's a lot of pressure. It kind of reminds me of. I was on Say Yes to the Dress, and I thought that I had to.
I didn't know this. Oh my gosh, go watch this.
That is how, that's how I got my wedding dress. But like you said, so a little backstory of that, I thought that I had to, if I said yes, like we had to buy the dress, and it was like, we were stressing. And so then, which I did, I mean, I was like, I did love it. It was a dress, like, I loved it. I liked 17 dresses that I tried on. I wasn't like looking for a particular one necessarily. So going on that show was a lot of pressure, but I got asked to do it. And then I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then it was maybe not the most fun thing I've ever done in my life. But anyway, I got my wedding dress because I was like, I said, yes, we have to pay for it today, all this stuff.
So they make you pay for the full thing, even though you're on the show?
Yeah.
Wow.
You're not getting any type of discount.
Whoa, actually, I think that's kind of a little bit not fair.
Well, it was. You don't have to go through with it though. That's what I was going to say. So I was thinking, oh God, I said yes. We have to do this. Like we are contractually. They're not going to air my episode. All this stuff. Then I went on a few years later, probably 5 years later. Two of my girlfriends that I was doing honeybees with, they got asked to do it, and. So we all went up to New York. We filmed the whole episode. They both said yes. We all were like, this is crazy. I'm so like naive. I'm like, this is so cool. You're getting your dress here. I got my dress here, blah, blah, blah. Cameras stop and they're like, I'm not buying this dress. Both of them. Neither one of them got the dress. I was like,
how did they know? Whoa. So
I have no,
like genuinely, I'm going to do what I said to do, which is what I think I would do too, honestly. I'd be like, oh, okay, I have to buy the dress. I'll buy the dress.
I think maybe I was just naive to reality TV. Like, I just thought that I was needing to get my wedding dress. I don't know. if I had just gone to try on for fun and knew I was like gonna say yes, and I would have been trying on $20,000 wedding dresses. And my mom and I, we were in the like $1,500 to $3,000 range, looking at expensive still, yeah, like expensive dresses. And that was what my mom was like, I'm gonna pay for the dress. And anyway, we were like stressing over, there was one that was like 3,500 and I'm like, no, I can't, anyway, we ended up getting a dress that was beautiful. I loved it. I don't know. It was probably like around 2,000 or something. It was like right in the sweet spot of our budget. I would have been trying on they have like probably way crazier gowns now, but there was this one when you first walked in that they were trying to get me to try on, and now I get it. Like, they wanted me to just try it on because it was a pretty dress. It probably would have looked pretty on me. I don't know. That's probably
You
why
said no to, you were like, no.
I was like, I can't even try it on. It was $16,000.
Great. You have such good restraint. Okay. Can we do a do-over? Can we just get you out here in Charlotte to like Ladies of Lineage or something, and we'll get you the most expensive dress they have?
Would have been so fun.
It'd be so fun. Honestly, you should still do that and make a day of it. Like let the bridal salon know. Be like, I was kind of robbed of this a while ago. I want to do it again. Can I just hang out with my friend? I bet they would say yes.
It would be so. You know what? I don't have as much the interest of doing it with a wedding dress, but something that I have said for years, and I'm going to do it now because this is like God's little tell to me, I swear, that we've been saying all this stuff about manifesting and free scone girl. I have always said I need to just buy the NASCAR banquet dress before he makes the chase. I need to just buy it, and then maybe he will win a race and get in it. Like maybe that I need to just put it out there, have the faith, buy the fancy expensive dress. Yeah. So maybe that's what I'll do, is go try.
I think you need to do it. Do it. Do it. Do it, and then get like your childcare figured out for the date of the banquet. Like just get it all prepped.
Yes. Fully prepared for it. Yeah.
Yes. Can I just ask real quick, if you could just draw your ideal dress for the NASCAR banquet, what would it look like? Are we thinking like a slim silhouette? Are we thinking
yes.
What are we thinking?
I would wear something very sexy and fitted. I don't really know the trends. I'm like so not in touch with that right now. Yeah. You got your finger on the pulse of.
I'm still a Vermont country girl who knows nothing. I don't know.
I would have to do my research, but I would definitely want something that is like fitted, sexy. I really do love these kind of corset type of dresses going on, or like the real nice boob cup dress type of thing. Yeah. Something like that. Probably just something black or dark. I don't really want anything, maybe something silky, black, sexy, hair. I would do my hair. I would actually get my hair done by someone.
I mean, you don't, first of all, you're so good at doing your own hair. You like save your money, but also it is so fun to get your hair done.
Yeah.
I could 100% see you in this right now. This feels like a dress because I just think like you're young, you're beautiful, put on that dress. And there is something to be said about, I'm kind of trying to embrace this now too, about just enjoying where we are in life, like being thankful for the body that we have. We're alive. Thank God. Dress how you want. What makes you feel so good?
Yeah.
Put it on. And that dress just described is like, it's literally celebrating exactly where you are and like how hard you worked.
Yeah.
I think you should buy it.
I need to. I'm inspired by this. We will definitely, if you see a good one, you send me a link and I'll go try it on.
I sure will. I will. I'll get on my apps right now.
Yeah. Oh my God.
ChatGPT can find it for us. I don't know.
Yeah. ChatGPT, draw me up a beautiful gown.
Pinterest.
I love some ChatGPT. I am using it a lot these days.
Same. For things, I'm like, really, did I just ask it to do that? But it's so helpful.
Yeah.
What's your number one thing? What do you use ChatGPT for the most?
I probably use it the most for this podcast. I will go on there, and I asked it, and it doesn't always have everything correct on about someone,
Yeah.
I even for our interview today, I'm like, okay, tell me everything that I need to know about Brooke Knaus and what should I ask her on a podcast type of thing. It basically just is interesting to see its ideas, and then I kind of like stem from there and create my own, I write like a very small amount of things on
Yeah.
my notebook here.
Oh, I love it. Well, it's like having an assistant. Like, let's just
Yeah.
say you are a podcaster and you're, number one on Spotify. You would have an assistant doing all
Yeah.
of that work. So to have ChatGPT give you like this highlight, I actually thought about doing the same thing for you. I was like, should I do it? And I just didn't have time. I thought
I've never asked it about me. I wonder if it would even have anything to say. Like I always preface it. I say, act like you're. I don't really anymore. It knows me. Like you know how it kind of knows you. But at first, I kind of was like, how do act like you're a professional podcaster that's interviewing NASCAR wives and yada yada yada. You kind of have to prompt it at first. Then it starts to sort of know who you are and what you're doing.
I wonder if you could even put in the transcripts from your existing podcast and have it like find out like what questions do my interviewees get the most excited about or something, so you can like have like your go-tos. Oh, these are my go-to. Like I know every time these are like these are the good ones.
That's a great idea.
It's so powerful.
It's really good for writing out little scripts or anything like that, little ads. Or I use it a lot to send emails to companies. I don't know.
Yeah.
If
I ever have trouble, there's a customer, like we have like customer shipping delays sometimes. And I like am struggling, like, how do I put this in a way like I can't even get my head wrapped around it? And it'll like come out with this beautiful thing and I'll tweak it.
Yeah.
But it really does give you an extra person because there's another human being on this team. If it's a podcast or if it's my business or if you're a stay-at-home mom who's, what the heck do I do with my kids all summer? Oh, here are like the big events in the area. There's so many uses for it. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not, but even in NASCAR. So there was a night where Chad and I were laying in bed together and he showed me this picture that ChatGPT had created. He's brainstorming, always ideas for cars, where his head goes. And he was like, look, I told it what it needed to do. Look what it just made. And he took that and he gave it to his engineers and he was like, this is really out of the box. And this is what I want our team to be trying to do. Like creative thinking. And that is what ChatGPT does best. It's like, it's lucid dreaming. Like it just gets you out there sometimes too. So
that's the thing, is it's not like you then go and copy every single bit of it. Obviously we're still human and we are so much more interesting in our nuances and everything, but it's like it gets you prompted in such a unique way. It just has really, really interesting ideas. I love that. That's really cool. It is weird too how Ty will ask it things and it will be more his tone. And then I'll ask it, and it's more my tone. I don't even know. It's so weird.
I know. If I think about it too much, I get a little creeped out. But I just to let myself go there because it's so helpful. How did it know all that?
Yeah.
It's kind of wild.
So I should have said this earlier when we were talking about you and Chad, but for the listener that doesn't know, Chad was Jimmy Johnson's crew chief for all of the years that he won his championships, and Jimmy won 7 championships with Rick Hendrick, and he is definitely one of the greatest of all time. And Jimmy was talking to Ty during Ty's season of 21 when he didn't have anything going on. He talked to Jimmy at one point in time because he really called everyone in the garage to try and get a job. And he was talking to Jimmy one day just wanting some advice. And he was like, honestly, man, what Chad and I had was lightning in a bottle. I don't know that could ever that was unreal, and we know it. And just how spectacular those seasons were and how they loved working together, and he just was like, that was insane. And anyway, Chad now, I don't know, what is his role now? What does he do now with it?
So he retired from being a crew chief. Jimmy retired first, then he worked with William Byron for a season. For a while he was actually kind of then after William Byron's crew chief role, he became the vice president of competition for Hendrick Motorsport.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's been a great job because, if you're a crew chief, if you're a driver, I mean, there's no break. And I don't
Yeah.
ever want to sound like being a NASCAR, driver or crew chief or anyone is any harder than any other job in the world, because it's every job is so hard. But this one does truly take you away from your family very consistently. Like, you are gone.
Yeah.
And I would say actually some of our hardest years for Chad and I were when he was a crew chief.
Yeah.
I think because the stress is so high, it like your fuse is a lot shorter. So I'm thankful that he's no longer a crew chief. I have the most respect for crew chiefs and the most respect for the wives, because I know where they're at. The weight of the world is on their shoulders, because if a driver wins, everybody wins, and the driver wins. If a team loses, it is, at least internally, maybe to the fans, it's like the driver lost, but internally, it's the crew chief. It's the crew chief who has faith. So there's
it's definitely, the responsibility feels like it weighs on that crew chief. I mean, it weighs on the driver too, but yeah. And then the worst thing is if you do there's been circumstances for Ty in his career where it's been those two kind of at odds with each other, crew chief, driver. There's that. I mean, where they're kind of like, is it me or is it you? What are we missing here? Yeah. It's a lot of stress to be a crew chief. And then also too, they're different in the sense, like Ty and I have so much respect for the crew chiefs, because they then get up, they're at work Monday, Tuesday. They don't stop way more than the driver.
Yeah. I look at all the crew chiefs that are at Hendrick right now, and everyone has families, and we were lucky that Chad exited from a crew chief when our kids were pretty young. But there are like crew chiefs who are missing their kids, all of their events. They're not seeing their kids. They're not going to those cheer competitions or whatever. They're missing a lot of that. So you really do sacrifice a lot of your personal life. Yeah. Because you do, like you said, you're not just there at the racetrack. You're there on Monday morning after you landed at 1 a.m. You're back at work, maybe by 8 or 9 a.m. the next day. Yeah. It's brutal. But at the same time, I think it's amazing when it does work. Everyone talks about Chad and Jimmy being this amazing duo, but they were also it's almost like a married couple. When you're great together, you know each other, but you also know exactly how to get each other, worked up.
Yeah. I can imagine it's not always, I mean, we see it from the outside perspective. I'm sure there were probably times Jimmy and Chad wanted to kill each other. I mean, they
would both be the first to tell you that they call themselves brothers, but I always think it's like a married couple, but they say brothers. Yeah. You want to punch that guy. It's family, so you can't. I mean, you can, and you're all going to be friends after, Yeah. But I'm just so thankful that we're in a new chapter, because
absolutely. I get that.
Yeah. And how is it for you guys? So I have such a different perspective being a crew chief wife, but as a driver wife, there's other fear of your husband is in a vehicle that is now driving 100 plus miles per hour around a racetrack. Like, how do you handle that every weekend?
I don't worry so much about Ty's safety. I mean, the only ones that I really worry about the safety a lot are the super speedways, because there has just been so many crazy things. But then the super speedways are also it's like buying a lottery ticket. It feels like those super speedways, where a lot of which maybe that's controversial to say to the racing world, I don't know, but it's like, it's anybody's game on those super speedways. So, but yeah, for us, I just want it to go well. I want him to be supported, and he has had so many different types of seasons. He's just had so many different types of contracts over the years, and we're really happy right now where we're at. And so I'm just kind of embracing it. We're just grateful for it. I know that we're getting closer to contract talk again, and that is always the worst. I despise that. And I mean, we just hope he's exactly where he is right now again next year. I mean, we're putting it out there, that's what we hope for, because we really love where he's at. It's a great team, and I just want him to feel supported and appreciated, because he works very hard, and he is so the kind of guy that just like, high tides rise all ships. Like, he is not we need to rob Peter to pay Paul. He wants his teammate to do good, and And I think he is valued and appreciated where he's at right now. So hopefully he can just stay there. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like when he has been in the past in circumstances where I didn't feel with other teams, where I didn't feel like they valued him. I as mama bear, but that's not it because he's my husband. But you're just like, you want to do anything to try and make it better, and you really can't. You really just have to hold down the fort and encourage them. And so, yeah, everybody's story has been different, but we're a unique situation where we've kind of had quite the roller coaster for his career. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully.
I almost wonder if it would be like, we talk about how we're racing wives, and that's what we are.
Yeah.
And until we're not, when they retire one day. But I really think there's probably a lot of parallel between a Panthers player wife or, a hockey, because it's a very similar idea. Your value is so dependent on your performance, and that as an athlete, the stress just must be so intense. And yeah, I think a lot of families with any kind of athletic tie for their husband feel that way.
Yeah, he has had quite the journey, and that is kind of his whole testimony, is basically him putting way too much self-worth in where he finished every week on the track, and realizing how empty that was, and then kind of coming to the end of his rope, to the end of himself, and realizing he needed something bigger, and sort of he was like a man of many hats, and he has a beautiful story testimony, and he tells it better than me. But, he was kind of a man of a different guy in every room, I should say. Not a man of many hats, but because that's kind of like a term of endearment. But he was like the great husband when he was home, and he was the driver that was fun with all the guys. And then he was, he wasn't being who he wanted to be. And so it all kind of stemmed from thinking he had gotten to the top of his career and then not getting out of it what he thought, and then putting too much value in where he finished on the racetrack. So he just kind of came to the end of his rope and then found Jesus. And now I love it, but I am not, that does not define me. And it's very much like he's just going to do the best he can and leave no stone unturned. But ultimately, he's at such a good place with it, and I commend him. I still get caught up in it, like where I'm like, it carries me sometimes through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when he'll be like, I'm over it, I'm on to the next, if it's a negative. And then sometimes I'll be like so jacked when it's good, and I'm like, okay, woo, calm down, woman. You're riding the roller coaster too much, but
I think it's because you're like you're an attentive wife, and you feel what he feels, and and just it's a woman's nature, I think, to want to make everything happier for everybody around you. And you're like, how do I make? But now it sounds like he's, honey, like I'm okay now. Like for whatever happens, I've got this beautiful life. I'm so blessed. I've got, look at what's around me. And I love that he's seeing that now. I think not everybody gets there in life, and I think if you can get there, everything just is better.
Yeah. It just gives you more peace and all the different, avenues of life, because life's going to throw you a lot, and it's not always going to be pretty. But, when it's good, we celebrate the good. And when it's hard, we believe that good's on the way.
Absolutely. 100%. It's that wheel.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in high school, my friend and I don't know why we thought of it then, but we did. And I still think about it. It's like life is a wheel. Like when you're on top, woo, you're on top. You're going to come down again, which is kind of like a sobering thought.
Yeah.
But when you're at the bottom, like you're like, the wheel has to keep spinning. Like eventually you're going to rise back up again.
Yeah.
So it's, even when you're in that spot of, like it's spinning, it's working in your favor, just some time.
Yeah. I love that. So where can people find you, Brooke? What's your website? You've got these amazing products, Tucky, Stitchy. Do you have some clothing?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I made these shirts, and I remember you bought one, and I was like, you looked so good. And I was like, dang, I have to make more of these. And the margins were so small, and I probably could have found a different manufacturer that would have made them for less. I probably could today, but they were so good.
Yeah, I have 3 of them. I bought them in every color, and I was like, Okay, these are amazing. I feel special. They're like OG Tucky
Yeah,
shirt.
I don't even have it. I've got some of, I think, extra large, which doesn't do the whole snap. The whole point was
Yeah.
for them to be snatching. It was kind of when Skims was coming out.
Oh,
I
they're
wanted like a
cute.
snatcher. Yeah, and I sold all the ones that fit me. So I'm glad
I do. I love them.
maybe one day I'll make them again. But no, yeah, you can find me shoptucky.com is my website, and at Sarah Brooke Knaus is my Instagram handle, which I just made public. I don't know what made me want to go public, but recently I was like, I feel like I'm going to go public today.
Yeah.
So there it is. I'm
Cool.
not very interesting on there, but feel free to follow. And TikTok is at Shop Tucky, so it's just my business Tucky account.
Yeah, I love it. Well, you have done some incredible things in your life, and it's just, you're such a wealth of knowledge. So I really appreciate you coming on here. I feel like you're an inspiration for women to, if they have a dream, just keep putting one foot in front of the other and just try. What's the worst that can happen? I think that you're just such an inspiration in that way, of someone that just always keeps reinventing yourself in a way.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me. Thank you.
Oh, well, you are, you got a fan in me, and I think everything, clearly everything you put out there, I'm like, I'll buy a Tucky, I'll buy the shirts, I got a Stitchy, like, I've got all the
I'm
products.
just going to give you, you're going to get the first PR box that I ever make. I'll
Yeah.
just send you get the first PR box, whatever that is. I don't know.
Sounds good. I'll take whatever it is. I'm bought in. I think it's awesome. So, well, thank you so much, Brooke, for coming on, and I am just super happy for you guys and all that you're doing. It's good stuff.
You are going to do many big things. I can't wait to watch this podcast grow. I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to get any kind of guests that you'd want in NASCAR, beyond.
Thank you.
Also very cool and inspiring. You're doing it all. Actress, mom, wife, host. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's even more thing, but that's a lot. That's a lot right there.
Oh gosh.
So I'll be following along.
Thank you so much. Thanks for doing this, and we'll catch up soon.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. I'm so grateful you spent this time with us. It means the world that you're here. And if you loved this conversation, make sure you check out the show notes for all the links and any resources we mentioned. I would love it if you followed me over on Instagram and YouTube. This is where I like to share things about my life, little tidbits about our family. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, the best way to say thank you is by sharing with a friend, leaving a review, and rating the show. It helps this conversation reach more people who believe in the good. See you next week.